he's going to do a presentation on the stormwater management plan, which is very timely considering what we had happen last month.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Yeah, it's definitely when this program gets seen the most, and even you touched on it, Mark and Keith are playing a big role in this program now, assisting me. I am still officially the coordinator, but a lot of the heavy lifting in the day-to-day is handled by them and jointly with us. So trying to stay on track here. There's going to be a lot of me talking tonight, so I apologize in advance. So the first presentation we're doing is on our MS4 program. So the town of Webster is a MS4, so we're required to operate as a municipal, operate our own municipal separate stormwater system, which is what MS4 stands for. We basically manage a stormwater management program, or a SWAM. There's various different requirements. Earlier this year in January, a new permit got adopted. So we're moving through the early stages in the first process of updating our past practices and program to match those requirements. So that's been a extra lift this year, which is why I'm really glad that we have Mark and Keith on staff to work through it. I'm not sure I can get through it on my own, probably wouldn't. So it's really a lot of the same items, but updating them, some new requirements and things of that nature about the program, some additional reporting requirements and things like that. We're getting very familiar very quickly though, because as many of you know, we did have an EPA audit a little while ago where they came in to specifically look at this program, the compliance and the practices that we have with it. I was quite pleased with the program that we had in place and the progress we've made toward the new permit. So I think most of that went pretty well. But so that's the SWIP program. The major components of the program are permits and coverage. There's special conditions. There's the swamp requirements that I just mentioned, the stormwater management program. Record keeping and reporting and evaluation is a big part, and then the 6 minimum control methods. The other component to it, we have one of the key sections is permit authorization. So the town of Webster, as an MS4, authorizes permits for various developments and activities throughout the town in compliance with the general permit. It's referenced there, which helps control the stormwater runoff. So we mentioned the heavy rainfall the other day. These facilities and program is designed to control as much of that runoff created through development in a responsible manner so that we don't degrade our waterways or cause any additional flooding. Much like we saw last week. So the town of Webster is an operator. We have traditional land use control. We must follow the outline in part 1 of the general permit. The town is exempt from the part 7 of the permit based on the way it's currently written. We do not have any TMDL impaired waterways at this time. Special conditions, so there are some impaired waterways within the town of Webster that do fall under the special conditions section where they need special review and sometimes additional BMPs and practices that need to be put in place. There's minor trips through Rondequoit Bay, the Rochester Deep Bay. Those are the 2 main waterways that are currently identified. Both on the west side of town and have to do with the bay and runoff there. So the swamp, the overall program requirements, the sections of that are a section of implementation and that staffing plan. So that has actually helped a lot internally. For a little while there was only 1 or 2 staff working on it. Now we have several to do some of the checking and reviewing of the plans to make sure we stay in compliance with this program. We have to make sure that the program that we have is available to the public. It's currently on our website in a few different places. It has to incorporate the minimum control measures. There's a mapping component which we utilize our GIS program for that. That is available at Town Hall. If you go there, we're able to assist you with viewing the different mapping and controls that we have for our stormwater ponds, features, drainage ways, things of that nature. That is ever evolving. That's an area where we do have some work to do as far as tailoring some of the features that we have mapped specifically to this program so that they match up with what the program is looking for a little more clearly. Right now we just have a lot of data on a lot of different infrastructure, and it needs to be labeled a little bit better and organized, but it is in there. There needs to be a section on our legal authority as it ties to our code and our ability to enforce, which is the next section, enforcement measures and tracking. So we have to keep track of active construction sites as well as post-construction monitoring. Maria has had a big hand in reaching out to our privately owned post-construction stormwater facilities and getting annual permits for those. All new developments end up with an agreement directly with the town that they will maintain their facilities, which are typically ponds, infiltration basins, things like that, to the state standard, which is a nice clean way to do it. They submit annual reports on that to track it. Internally, we're still monitoring right around 120 publicly owned ponds and various different developments that get usually annual inspections. They're on a mowing schedule for maintenance, and then we're able to do some more sizable projects, desilting, vegetation removal on several each year as well, based on need. If they're in good condition, we don't spend time working on them, but in general, many do need some more work, and we continue to try to take on more and more of that work to get them in better condition. We have a record keeping and reporting and evaluation component. All the records we have, inspections and things of that nature need to be kept for 5 years. They are available to the public. An annual report is filed electronically every year. Then we keep a interim progress report on hand twice a year. The swamp must be reevaluated every 5 years. There's definitely sections and times when we see things in the field, we see situations that happen, and there definitely does call sometimes for an adjustment on how we look at things, which things we look at, and how thoroughly we look at them. So it is sort of ever evolving, making sure we're learning from the situations that come up and implementing them into our overall program to make it as effective as possible to eliminate deficiencies. And then basically document all of those statuses and requirements. So I mentioned the 6 minimum control measures. They are education and outreach. This is the first one, public involvement and participation. So those two kind of fall into what we're doing right now. Trying to get out in our public forums the best we can to communicate this information to the public, let them know that it's available, put these presentations online so they can be pulled down later, and sort of do as much outreach as we can. There's a lot of stuff we're connected with the Monroe County Stormwater Coalition, and they do a lot of effort on that front as well. They do a lot of advertising, posting things in public places, innovative field, all over the place, just to try to get some awareness out about this. That's the public component. Minimum measure 3 is illicit discharge, detection and elimination. So that's if we have sediment-laden water or any other kind of discharges that are not supposed to be going into our water, that we have a way to identify those, allow the public to clearly communicate those to us in a fast, efficient way. Primarily right now, most of the stormwater-related discharge items are coming through the highway department. We do have a 24-hour answering service, and we do perform the drainage maintenance on all of our own ponds. So if you do have a question about that, right now the most efficient way is to contact the highway department, and we will come out and take a look at the situation that you're concerned about, and hopefully get you an answer on whether there is action to be taken, or better clarification of what you're seeing and what you're dealing with. We are doing a lot of that right now. There's a big concern in town because of the water levels that rose the other day during the nearly 6 inches of rain that fell in a short period of time. So we've been out looking at a lot of different situations, and there are times when there is something to be adjusted and addressed, and sometimes with the level of storm we had, it was just high water, and everything actually worked the way it should. It was just extremely high. So we're seeing a little bit of both right now, but definitely call if you have questions. Then we have the minimum measure for construction site stormwater runoff control. That's one that is is dealt with daily for us. We have roughly 17 active construction sites right now that have active permits around town, ranging from subdivisions to large commercial sites. We get weekly, sometimes twice weekly reporting on those. We review those situations and make sure that any of the issues are being addressed, so that when we do have a large rain event, we don't have discharges of sediment or anything else from these sites. So that's one we deal with every day. Then we have the post-construction stormwater management. We kind of touched on that before, that we reach out to privately owned parties to get annual reports, and then we do our own internal reporting on the ones we have. Those are primarily the existing ponds, infiltration basins, some green infrastructure here and there in town that we track and manage. And then minimum measure 6 is pollutant prevention and good housekeeping. So that comes in at our facilities, making sure our facilities are doing what they need to do. Building drains are going to the sewer, not to the storm. We're doing anything we can to have our own stormwater facilities for our impervious surfaces, and maintaining them the way we're supposed to. So that's number 6. That's right, I forgot to have them all broken down. I did them all right there today. So this is going to kind of be a repeat of what I said, but a little bit more elaboration. Part of the public outreach through the Stormwater Coalition that I mentioned, they do newspaper, radio, storm drain markers. They have a campaign for H2O Hero, which is their sort of mascot symbol that they put out there to try to get information out annually. And they also put out pamphlets, public involvement, leaf pickup, obviously something that we've already started to get calls about here, as a few of the leaves have started to fall. We usually don't start those operations till closer to Halloween, but that program is where we're picking up leaves and recycling them instead of having them in the drains and in the waterways of the town. We do pharmaceutical collection. We do household hazardous waste drop-off, which actually just happened in Penfield, where we assisted a couple weeks ago, maybe even last weekend. Then we have the e-waste drop-offs. Minimum measure 3, the illicit discharge. Like I said, we enforce a section of our code that gives us legal authority to do so. We put out information on how to identify them, how to eliminate them, and then we make sure that we're keeping a reporting up on any situations like that. Construction sites, as I said, we have several active sites in town where we monitor pretty much all aspects, keep an inventory, and do inspections. The post-construction, there's public and private. We do the inventories, we make sure they're maintained. The pollutant prevention and housekeeping minimizes exposure, reacts to spills. We have our standard operating procedures that we follow to make sure stuff like street sweeping falls into that good housekeeping section as well, which we are doing constantly. That's the majority of the information on our MS4 program. So questions? And here's the email, as I mentioned, to contact us with any other questions that the public might have.
How much would all these cost? Do you have that?
The cost to manage the program?
Yeah, and also too, can I ask another question?
You can ask as many as you'd like to, it's correct.
Seeing that we hire a new, engineer in our town and everything, so is there any way that we can cut back on outsourcing for engineer to cut down costs?
Absolutely, right. So with Keith coming on board and getting familiar, we've already decreased the outside use of engineers pretty dramatically. It's hard exactly to put numbers to, but we're primarily managing the program now, so I would say it's down already 80 to 90%. So we're already cutting in a big way to that outsourced program, which is big thanks to these guys right here for jumping right in and getting involved right away. So I know Keith has a more specific timeline for completely pretty much moving away, except for special projects. It's moving right along. We're making very good progress on that. Very happy with how they've stepped in. So that's definitely way down. We don't track the efforts on this specifically as far as town staff and things of that nature, but it's hefty. The management of the MS4 program is kind of just bestowed upon us by the DEC, and same from them from the EPA at that level. And there isn't really any direct funding sources for it provided, and it's up to the townships to fund it. So we work it into our day-to-day, and it's covered in our operational budget. but it's not broken out. It kind of falls under our construction review for development and sort of the daily tasks that each staff member has is some of these items. So it's kind of hard to quantify exactly what the cost is, but it does take a lot of time,
And Pat, what I will say, and Charlie, I think it's the right term, if you go and look at what MS4 and what the DEC has come up with as far as regulations over the last 20 or 30 years, they almost all fall into what we call unfunded mandates, non-funded mandates from New York State. Is that what they're called, unfunded mandates? All right, everybody knows what those are? So, yeah, it is hard to really quantify state government DEC regulations that are somewhat, here you go, now you have to, I'm not going to be a repeat of what you just presented. We have to go and figure out how to execute those at our cost. You know, how would we do that? Whether it's staff or outsourced engineering firms like we were doing before Keith and Mark came on. All of that. And I know that's one of your fun topics, Charlie, the unfunded mandate.
Yeah, this is, like you said, actually probably the last 20 years closer. The state and federal governments imposed not just regulations, but actually laws. We had to enact an entirely new chapter and put it into our code. So.
Yeah, we're having to amend it as a part of this, because of the changing
Right.
dates. The new permit does have more requirements. There's more to do there than there was previously. That kind of continues. Yeah.
And Webster, we have a little more work than the average.
You got it.
It's large.
It's
Yeah,
over.
it's
It's more onerous on a town like Webster because
Absolutely.
what else can we call it? We're a wet town. And that's the best description I can use for it to me. We're a wet town, and we found that out in spades last Monday night. What do we have? 6 inches of rain in 2 to 4 hours.
He was 5.7, but yeah.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is the drainage systems that we have in place handle it pretty darn well.
Yeah, we definitely sell water in places that we probably haven't in the last 3 or 4 decades, but it didn't stay there for a long period of time, and that is the system working.
But we could never build a system that's built to handle 6 inches of rain because it would cost $100 million plus for us.
You shouldn't, right? Because that's overkill for one day a year. There's a balance in there, but to oversize things to that magnitude, really,
Right.
would be very detrimental financially to everybody.